Caroline, and I have just very impromptuly, like within the past 2 minutes, decided that I am going to be participating and vlogging in SUMMERWEEN, which is a week-long readathon that is hosted by Olivia and Gabby here on YouTube, which I will link their channels. And the whole point of this readathon, if you don't know, is very unlike me because it's all surrounding spooky, horror-y, thriller-y type books, which I am not a spooky, horror-y, thriller-y girl, but I love a community event and I would love to participate. So I have some books right here, which I'll go through in a second, that I think I can make work for the prompts. So let's talk about those. Okay, so like I said, super last minute decision, so please pardon the chaos. I will put a picture of the prompt checklist up here, and then here are the books that I think I can make fit for the prompts. I know that there is a prompt that says read a book with haunt in the title, and I thought that this was the perfect excuse to read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which is a book that I've wanted to read forever, particularly because I've wanted to watch the show. So I figure maybe if I get through this quickly enough, then maybe I could watch the show in this vlog too. There's also a prompt that says read a book with like Halloween colors on the cover, and this has like a nice orangey black red, so I think I can make this work. Really, this is the only book that I think you could consider like a horror or like a gothic that would actually fit in the theme of this readathon. Here are my other two books. This one is called I Hold a Wolf by the Ears by Lauren Vandenberg, which is a collection of short stories. There is another prompt that says read a slasher. None of these books I don't think would fall in the slasher category, but these are all short stories that say they draw readers into a world of wholly original sideways ghost stories that linger in the mouth and the mind. Both timeless and urgent, these 11 stories confront misogyny, violence, and the impossible economics of America. So they're like speculative-ish stories. Maybe I can find something in here, like one story in here that may constitute a slasher. Also, there's a prompt that says to read a book at night or in the dark or something like that, and I figured these short stories would be great to do that. Just read one or two right before bed each night. And the third and final book is called Too Bright to See by Kyle Lukoff, which is a middle grade that I've actually already started, so that's kind of why I'm including it. I did not know this before going into it. It's a ghost story. I actually am only 12 pages in, and I already can tell, like, this is my favorite kind of middle grade, where is there a ghost or is it grief? Is the house haunted, or is that just like the coping mechanisms? The writing is really phenomenal, and it doesn't fit any of the prompts, but it is a little ghosty, and I'm just gonna include it for fun. I also think that there's a prompt that is something about baking a spooky treat. So we'll have to do, maybe it would be so cool if I could find some kind of food or baked good in one of these books, and that way we could make that together so it could be on theme. But if not, there will be baking included at some time in this vlog. Hey, so like I said, I'm not really a thrillery, horror-y reader, but I'm gonna try a little bit for the sake of this readathon. But also in terms of like SUMMERWEEN, this vlog is probably gonna heavily lean into the summer and not so much the ween. And I probably should have thought about that sentence a tiny bit more before saying it out loud, but it's already out there. So in the sake of leaning into the summer side of things, let's kick this reading session off with a lime seltzer water, which is a very summery drink, don't you think? I've been reading for not even a page, and already they're picking blueberries, and it mentions that he would use them in a pie later. So I guess at some point this week we're making some kind of blueberry pie. Hello. It's nighttime now. I did admittedly not do a good job at vlogging what happened this afternoon, as I am wont to do. I will update those of you that need to know. My best friend came over and we had dinner and drinks with my parents, and it was a lot of fun. I also got to about page 50 in Too Bright to See. I can already tell that it's gonna be something that I love. There's something about like a middle grade and overcoming grief and like discovering identity. Like I can just already tell that this is really gonna work for me. Now I wanna see if I can get a short story or two read in this one, especially since it is nighttime. And I know the prompt says to read a book in the dark, but like I need to be able to see the pages. So it's dark outside. So it counts, right? If I read one or two, I can count this, right? Okay, I need you to hear the first sentence of this first short story. I want to tell you about the night I got hit by a train and died. Oh my God. And then the second sentence is, the thing is, it never happened. What? One of my favorite things about reading short story collections is being able to star rate all of the individual stories in the table of contents. I'm going to give that first short story that I read last night 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure that I entirely understood what it was about, but I liked reading it. I like this author's writing style. I think I have a little bit of time, so I'll move on to the second short story called Slumberland. Where I don't entirely understand what just happened, but I think that I liked it. So another 4 stars. The ending freaked me out. So I'm going to have to watch a fun show or something. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to fall asleep.
On a cold night.
All the girls are cooking away.
Yeah.
I got lots of nice sharp.
There's a 2-cup thing. Before you get your hands dirty, hold the book up to the camera.
Today we are making sun-dried tomato turkey meatball bake.
Day 3 Summerween. It's time for an update. We haven't done that in a while, and I'm in the middle of errands, which what could be a more perfect time for an update? Update number 1, I just got Starbucks. Delicious. I'm real boring at the world's most boring drink, like known to mankind, especially when I see all these other like fun drinks out there. This is just an iced oat milk latte. I got 2 pumps of hazelnut in it to spice things up. While I was running errands, I had a brief intermission phone call with my best friend where she spilled some hot gossip, and we just had like a real good conversation. And really the most readathon related update is that early this morning I finished Too Bright to See by Kyle Lukoff, and I cannot tell you how happy I am that one, I included this in the readathon because it is a ghost story. It's about this young kid named Berg who at the very beginning we learned that they have lost their uncle. So they're kind of unpacking the grief process. It also takes place, I'm all over the place. It also takes place in the dead of summer. So I felt like it was the perfect time to read it. Anyways, as they're going through this grief, there's just this kind of stuff that keeps happening to them in this house. They end up going through this like whole research process, researching ghosts and like poltergeists and paranormal encounters. Along the way, you kind of learn more and more about Berg and about their identity and who they're becoming and what they're discovering about themselves. And it was just such an important book. But also, when I say that I want a ghost story or I want a haunted house story, this is exactly what I am talking about. I don't ever really think that I want an actual haunted house story or an actual paranormal ghost story. I want everything to be one gigantic metaphor, which it's up to interpretation, but I definitely think it was. The writing was stunning, and I am just so happy that I read it. Since I am officially done with this read, my #1 priority errand was getting stuff to bake a blueberry pie, which I actually am modifying a little bit because I came across a TikTok like months ago about this girl making a blueberry galette. And I don't actually know the difference between a blueberry pie and a blueberry galette. It kind of just seems like a galette is an open-faced pie. So instead of covering the top of the pie with crust, the crust is just on the bottom and then the fruit is like laid out on the top. Anyways, I'm so excited to make it in honor of officially finishing Too Bright to See. If you're interested in a star rating for this one, I have a really hard time star rating middle grades just because like objectively this is a 5-star for what it did, but just as like my personal enjoyment factor, it's probably more of a 4. If I gave point like half-star ratings, it would be a 4.5. But this is so important and it's so good. It was subjective 4-star, but an objective 5-star. I loved it. One more update before my camera overheats from sitting on this 115-degree dashboard. I have been loving listening to my Upside Down playlist on Spotify. It's basically like a curated playlist of songs that would save you from Vecna, and I'm pretty sure you can just find it if you search Upside Down on Spotify. And I'm not exactly sure like what the algorithm is that they used. It's definitely songs that I've listened to over and over again, so like your favorites. Then there's some songs in there that I haven't heard in such a long time that I probably haven't listened to since before I even had Spotify, that just like scratch an itch in my brain where I'm like, oh, it's so good. And then there's some 80s songs mixed in there as well. So I'm sure that everyone already knows about this, but if you haven't, I highly recommend searching your Upside Down playlist on Spotify and just grooving out and having a great time. What is it again?
A purslane.
Purslane. So pretty.
That stuff's supposed to stay in.
No, some of it. Oh, a horseshoe.
Yeah, there's a couple of them in there.
Why?
Because breaks down into iron. It's good for the soil. Oh, and there's some zinnias out there too.
In another pot?
Yeah, and then there's some zinnias back here. I just took a cutting.
Oh, wow.
And I cut the grass. Grass looks good.
This Arizona monsoon weather is really embracing the Summerween vibes. This is nuts. And the scariest thing about all of this is that it is raining and windy out and it's still 110 degrees. In other news, I also just read 2 more short stories in this one, and they were both 5 stars. Let me see if I can tell you the names of them. I think one of them is, yeah, Hill of Hell, and then the second one is Cult of Mary. So good.
Tonight, on a cold night, tonight.
Okay, I promise I have had the best of intentions of updating you, and those intentions, no matter how good they are, they just keep falling out of my brain to do so. So we're gonna do it now while the camera is turned on. Not only have I started The Haunting of Hill House, I'm actually already 100 pages in. And what's funny is, I guess at some point past me had planned on reading this, because when I started it, I noticed that all of the beginnings of the chapters had been dog-eared. So thank you, my past self, for doing it, even though I don't remember actually doing that. Maybe it was a ghost. So this is pretty much like the original classic gothic haunted house story as far as I know. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first started reading it, my brain taking in that language, I was like, how does anyone understand this and enjoy this? And then as I kept going, I either got used to the language or I just started enjoying it more. Shirley Jackson really does hit those gothic points on the head in like personifying the house itself and the rooms and the hallways. And there was this point where one of the main characters was describing like the layout of the house, and they were saying how the design of the house, like the person who designed it, all the angles, he intentionally designed them to be slightly off, where everything looks familiar, but then there's just that slight, I don't know, otherness is really unsettling to me, but for some reason it's really enticing. As far as the characters themselves, there's 4 of them, and I really like kind of the main girl, Eleanor. I forget if it's like her point of view that it's told from or not, but she's definitely the one that's been focused on so far. I like her quite a bit. The other 3 are just kind of okay for me. And then, as I feel with a lot of classic literature, the parts where they're all just standing around talking, I'm like, okay, can we pick it back up? Anyways, I have about 80 pages left, and I'm gonna take a break because I promised my parents that I would start prepping, cooking dinner. Hey, this is what we're making, or at least what we're prepping right now. Why can't all onions peel that easily?
Well, last summer, your goals. The Fabulous app is a digital coach that uses behavioral science to help you develop habits.
Hello. You?
Okay, hi, I'm in the library. I'm speaking very quietly because I don't want to disturb anyone. I came to the library for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, my library card expired and I had to get that updated. And reason number 2 is because I'll tell you in the car because I'm in public and I'm scared. Okay, we're officially back in the car, aka a place that I'm actually comfortable filming. So like I was whispering to you inside the library, I went there, 1, to renew my expired library card, and I'm actually really glad that it expired while I was here in Arizona. If you don't know, I live in the Philippines. I'm here for a couple of weeks in Arizona visiting my parents. So I'm just really glad that my card expired when it did, because if it would have expired when I was in the Philippines, Like, I don't know what I would have done. I would have had to live without Libby, and a life without Libby is no life at all, my friends. Second reason why I was at the library is because I am 30 pages away from being done with The Haunting of Hill House. So I'm gonna finish in like 2 seconds, which means after I finish this, I will be done with 2 out of the 3 books that I had on my initial Summerween TBR. But there are 2 full days of the readathon left, and I still have my short story collection, but that I'm using for the book that I'm reading at night, and I was planning on reading a little bit like each day of the readathon. So I was thinking to myself, Caroline, do you just go a full 2 days of the readathon without reading anything at all? Or do you go to the library and check out a book that may actually fulfill the slasher prompt? This is Ring Shout by P. Djèlí Clark, and it was shelved on Goodreads as a slasher. I don't actually know what constitutes a slasher, but I do know that it's nice and thin, and I may actually be able to read this within the last 48 hours of Summerween. And speaking of fulfilling Summerween prompts, I have yet to make that blueberry galette that I showed you that I got the ingredients for however many days ago. So I'm gonna go home and we're gonna do that right now, which will fulfill our baking a spooky treat prompt. Okay, welcome back to the kitchen cabinet. I'm here with my mom. Say hi. Hi. And we're making a blueberry galette in honor of Too Bright to See, because when I was reading this, if you remember, it said at one point they were making a blueberry pie. I don't know what the difference is. Do you want to explain to them? Do you know the difference?
No, the only thing I think is that a blueberry pie has a deep crust. And this, I think, has a more shallow crust that you then fold around the blueberries.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
We'll see when it turns out. One more thing I was thinking of as I've been contemplating this book, that a really good comp title for this is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. So if you read and enjoyed A Monster Calls, I really think that this is something that you would enjoy as well. Did you ever read A Monster Calls?
No.
Oh, okay. I think you'd like it. In a large bowl, combine the blueberries, flour, sugar, lemon zest, and juice thoroughly. Okay.
Yeah, lemony and sugary.
Yeah.
What could be better than that? All that goodness in a bowl.
We're lazy and didn't make our own pie dough. Have you ever made your own pie dough?
Yes.
Wait, this says pour the blueberry mixture into the center of the dough, making a mound and leaving 1-inch border, and fold around the edge of the crust.
You just kind of lay it over.
Yeah.
How is it?
I'm trying it right now.
Oh, I thought you had it over. And we're at season 2.
I think episode 1.
Yeah.
I did it. I finished The Haunting of Hill House, and I 1000% see the merit in a book like this, especially given that this is like one of the first haunted house books I think ever written. But the whole time that I was reading this, I just kept thinking about how I've read other newer haunted house books that I've enjoyed way more. Or like there's a whole descent into madness thing that kind of goes on in here, and I've read newer descent into madness books that I've enjoyed more. So that's totally, it's a personal preference, and it probably has a little bit to do with like the writing style. I actually decided on a whim to listen to the audiobook of this for the last chapter only, and it actually kind of made me wish that I would have listened to the audiobook the whole way through, because I really enjoyed that last chapter. And because this is kind of a gothic novel, I almost wonder if I would have enjoyed the audiobook more, because it would have been like someone telling me this gothic spooky tale instead of me just sitting here kind of having to like navigate this language and these like long expanses of dialogue where I was like, is this really happening, or is it all in the person's head? Which I get is probably like the point of the book itself. Overall, I'm really glad that I can say that I've read this now, and I'm very interested in the show, especially because I know that the show and the book aren't alike. Like the Haunting of Hill House show is more based off the book than like an exact retelling of the book itself. So this is probably getting around 3 stars from me. And now I'm going to move on to reading the next 2 short stories in I Hold a Wolf by the Ears. Tonight, the titles of what I am reading are Volcano House and Friends, which I looked ahead last night. Volcano House is like the longest short story in here, and then Friends is the shortest short story in here. So let's get going with that.
On a cold night tonight. On a cold night tonight.
I just got done working out and I didn't even bother showering. That's how close I feel to all of you. And I realized that I really cannot let another second go by without talking about how much I'm already loving this so much. And what's funny is I actually remembered after I checked this out that I've read a short story from this author before in an anthology that I read a few months ago. I'll put the cover up here. I think it's called Black Boy Joy. And I remember reading this author's story in there and loving the characters and thinking that it was so wild how he was able to create this unique and enticing world in so few pages. And I'm having those exact same thoughts all over again. These like 3 main characters so far, already in love with them, obsessed with them. This world is so unique and it just makes me, it like boggles the mind how authors think and like are able to convey these worlds through these words. The setting of this basically takes place in an alternate history, kind of around in the 1920s, where there's almost a new wave of the Ku Klux Klan, and they are something more than human, something more twisted and vile than what members of the KKK already are. In the book, they refer to them as demons. And in the first chapter, we meet our 3 main characters that basically battle these KKK demons. And I loved this first chapter so much. They're all on a rooftop and it kind of goes into like a little mini snippet of each one of their backstories. And I almost kind of was picturing in my mind like a Western, kind of how it like zooms in and like freeze frames on the face and they're like, this is so-and-so, their weapon of choice is this. And I was just having a spectacular time. So I'm gonna try to get to about 100 pages today. That way I'll be over halfway through. And I really wanna update you all about the short story collection that I'm reading, like a few stories from every single night, but I don't have time right now. So remind me to do that the next time that we see each other.
On a cold night tonight. On a cold night tonight.
Good morning! It's the last day of the readathon, and raise your hand if in the middle of the day yesterday you got really overwhelmed and just couldn't even fathom reading a single word of a book. Me, it's me. When they talk about readathon burnout, they don't talk about how easily it sneaks up on you or how it'll happen right in the middle of when you're reading like your 2 favorite books of the readathon. So I have about another 80 pages to go in Ring Shout, and then I didn't read a single short story last night, so I still have 3 short stories that I need to read in I Hold a Wolf by the Ears. Totally manageable. I just thought that I was gonna be farther along in both of these than I am right now. Should we do a mini, very mini Sephora haul? Is that interesting to anyone? I really only bought like the essential things that I wear every single day that I can't buy in the Philippines, which is the Supergoop Unseen Sunscreen, and then also my mascara, which is the Tarte Lash Paint. If they ever do away with this, I don't know what I'll do, because I've tried a million different other mascaras and just none compare to this one. I also bought myself a fun special treat, which is the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip. This is new to me. It's very interesting. You click it like a pen. I am a little nervous about the color. I don't know how to describe like the taste of it. Coconutty, maybe, like islandy. What do we think? I literally can't even tell that I put anything on, which is really what I'm looking for, so looks good to me. I am really trying my best to spice it up for you all and find a new filming angle. Is this it? Probably could find something better. This is what's gonna have to do for now. Let's talk about Ring Shout. Finished it earlier, and this is one of my favorite books of the year. I am so glad that I have put off filming my mid-year book freakout for as long as I have, because this main character, favorite character of the year. She's a monster hunter that wields a sword from another dimension. Like, yes, absolutely. If this is what horror is, I want to read it. The back, someone blurbed it and said P. Djèlí Clark couldn't write a bad book if he tried. Check. Ring Shout is fantastically fun, even if at its core it is serious as can be. And I 1000% agree with that. And I want to make it clear that when I'm saying like, this book is so fun, like I had such a fun time reading it, it was my perfect book, all of those things are true as far as like the characters and the pace of the book and like some of the action sequences and just like some of the ideas for like the alternate dimension kind of things and these fantasy characters that are drawn in. But I also want to make sure that like it's very clear that this book handles so many heavy subjects. Obviously, like the insidiousness of white supremacy and like the root of the KKK and the hate that kind of brings groups like that together. But I think that it also had a lot of things to say about like the white view of Black trauma and some of the events that happen later on in the book and like how they happen and how the characters overcome them. Just this author, the brain that he has and the way that he wove in those concepts to like a fantasy horror novella, I don't understand. Like the fact that this was something that I picked up kind of on a whim and added to my TBR at the last minute, I'm so happy because it brought me like one of my favorite books of the year. To give you a little bit of a time check, it is currently 9:26. I don't even know why I'm holding it up because you can't see it. It's 9:26 p.m. and I still have 3 more short stories to read in I Hold a Wolf by the Ear, which equals out to about 60 pages total. So I better get going. Disclosure, I've already filmed this outro clip, but I was thinking back to what I said and I didn't actually say anything that I wanted to. First, I finished I Hold a Wolf by the Ears. I read the last 3 short stories in there and I feel like I really did this book a disservice because I didn't convey how much I loved this throughout the vlog. Looking back at my star ratings for each individual story, I think I gave 2 of the short stories 3 stars, and then every single other one was 4 and 5 stars. None of the stories in here were like related to one another. They were just all like spooky and speculative and bizarre and weird. I really, really loved this author, Laura Vandenberg. I loved her writing, not only like the pacing of the individual stories, but also just like her sentences and the way she said things. I underlined some sentences in here that made me just like I had to recover, like regain my breath after reading them. And this is why I love short story collections, because now I know that I want to read like more from this author and I can pick up her full-length novels. The last book of the readathon is complete. Let's put these books in the order of which I enjoyed them, and then let's go through each of them, and then also go through and see if I checked all of the prompts off of the Summerween list. Starting from the bottom and then working our way up. The Haunting of Hill House, I gave 3 stars. I used this to fulfill the read a book that had haunt in the title prompt. And then I also used this one for reading a book with Halloween colors on the cover. Next was Too Bright to See, which like didn't super fit the theme of this readathon, but I did use it as inspiration for my baking my spooky treat, because it kind of aligned to this book, and is also a book that I really loved and would recommend to everyone, and I can't wait to talk about it with my students once I'm back with them. Next, I'm doing I Hold a Wolf by the Ears. I don't know my rating because I don't ever know how to rate short story collections, because if you combine all of the individual star ratings for all of the short stories, it's like a 4.5 something, but like I feel like this collection as a whole should get 5 stars. Like this is one of my, probably my favorite, all-time favorite short story collection. Definitely my favorite short story collection that's all from just one author. And I read all of these short stories at night, which fulfills that prompt. And then for the star of the show, the MVP of this readathon that took us all by surprise, we have Ring Shout, which I used to fulfill the slasher prompt. And also it's like possibly my new favorite book of the year. Definitely gonna be like in my top favorite books of the year for sure. I am so tired and I need to go to bed, but thank you so much to Olivia and Gabby for hosting not only this readathon, but a bunch of Ween readathons, and for what you do. This was such a fun week. You participated in Summerween. Let me know how it went for you. And yeah, just thank you so much for sticking around and watching. I hope that wherever you are, you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.